Hey all, Tony Bing here. Hello and welcome to my Frozen Blades guide for Iceman. Now, if you've been following the channel, you would know that I recently done a range summon build for Iceman, and I do have a lot of other heroes to cover, but this is a build that I find a whole lot of fun, so I was wanting to put it out sooner rather than later. So what we will cover to showcase the build and give you some insight is we will look at the skills and talents. We also check out the synergies, the infinity point allocation, we check out the general gear and priority, and then we finish up with some gameplay. But first up, let's have a look at the skills. So with this skill setup we have a nice balance of melee and also freeze and shatter skills, and we've got a crash down as well, which is a load of fun and does a ton of damage with the setup we have. Now if we look at the main spender enemy, this is Frozen Blades, so this one will restore ice armor as well as chill an enemy as well, and it gains a damage bonus after you shatter an enemy. Now the next skill we have, and we always want to lead with this in combat, is Ice Slick. It lays down a dot, vulnerability, it will deep freeze the enemy if they're chilled, and they normally will be from our main spender, and through talents we've got it so it actually regens our health and ice armor as well at a rate of 5% per second for both of them, and you can also see the initial cast gives you 25% of your max ice armor back, so it's really good for keeping the ice armor as high as possible. Now once we have the enemy freezed, we follow up with Arctic Wave, so it's got a 6-second cooldown and you will shatter the enemy. We then follow up with Frost Nova. This will deep freeze the enemy, but it actually makes your next shatter power do 200% bonus damage. Now the skill we use next is for the very reason that Frost Nova is a huge buff to shatter powers. The skill we use is Glacial Slam. So this one, as you can see, it does a not bad amount of damage there, 32,000, which is roughly the same area as some of the other cooldown skills. However, it also gains a damage bonus based on your maximum ice armor, so currently it has a 62.4% bonus, so we're using the Nova so that we get the bonus to shatter skills, and then we're following up with the Slam to jump up and slam down and shatter them and do a huge amount of damage as well. It really is a great combo. Now the next skill we follow up on, and this is one that I went back and forth on a few skills trying to find one I liked. I did try the Ice Golem, I tried the Ice Block, and I even tried the Work of Art as well. But the one I liked and works well is Frozen Orb. Now I have it with the summon setup, and the reason for that is when I'm engaged in melee combat and attacking the enemy, I'll throw this out and the actual orb will stop and spin on the enemy I'm attacking. So it's an additional dot damage there, and it's also another deep freeze, but very importantly it restores your ice armor, because you want your ice armor to be restored as quickly as possible, because when we are using Glacial Slam it consumes all of our ice armor, so we want to get it back up before the actual rotation comes back round to it again. It'll probably make a bit more sense when we look at the talents, but the final skill before we do look at the talents is your signature, which is absolute zero, so nice amount of damage and vulnerability and restores your ice armor. But let's check out the talents. Talent wise here then, we really do have quite a different selection from the range build I've shown off previously. Now the first one we use, this is Ice Crafted Weapons, and it converts our range spenders into melee spenders, gives you a melee power damage buff and also an 8% flat damage reduction. Now it does convert one of your range spenders, Icicles, into Icy Arsenal, and you may wonder why I'm not using that. It has charges and it has a nice amount of damage, but the cooldown on it and the charges, I just really couldn't get it flowing well with the build. If you want, you could potentially drop Frozen Orb for it if you want to use it instead, but my recommendation would be to go for the Orb. Now the next talent we have is Blizzard. So with this one, the skill we've just mentioned, Frozen Orb, gains bonus damage as if it were a summon power, and the orb will spawn at the targeted enemy and remain there for 6 seconds. So as you're hitting away an enemy, the orb will stick on them, which really is great. Now the fact that it gains damage as if it was a summon power, you may be wondering about the fact that I won't have a lot of summon affixes because this is a summon build. However, as mentioned in previous videos, summon skills will also gain damage from your other highest damage tag, so this will still gain damage from likely our melee damage tag, because that'll be the one that will likely have the highest skill there. But next talent is Frost Nova. Love this skill. This converts Flash Freeze into Frost Nova. It's a far-reaching melee attack and it will freeze the enemy, and that's the one that provides a 200% vulnerability to shatter skills. We then have Avalanche, so Glacial Slam gains the following effects. Ice Armor cost consumes 100% of your Ice Armor, but you gain that 5% per 100 maximum Ice Armor bonus, which really makes it do a huge amount of damage and makes it a huge amount of fun. But final talent is Renewing Cold. So with this one, Ice Slick, which is normally a range skill, becomes a melee power, gains damage, cooldown goes up to 8 seconds, which does make it a little bit cumbersome because the rest of a rotation is 6 seconds, which is the only thing that's a bit of a pity, but it's still really worthwhile using this because you can see it offers the 5% of max health and 5% of max ice armor per second when you're standing in the area effect, and that really is incredible. As your health pool goes up, the ability to regain 5% per second is fantastic. It really is great. But next up, what we'll do is have a look at the synergies. Simple enough setup here for the synergies then. We have our primary attributes, which are energy and durability, so that would be Gambit and Luke Cage. We then have our standard synergies that I like to use, which are Blade, Hawkeye, Hulk, She-Hulk and Squirrel Girl, and specific synergies to Iceman that work great are the Iceman synergy, Nightcrawler and also Storm as well, because they provide either ice or melee damage rating there. But next up, let's have a look at the Infinity Point allocation. For the Infinity Point setup here, I'm placing the first 100 points into the Mind Gem and also Deep Thought, because Ice Armor is fantastic on a melee build, but also we gain that buff on Glacial Slam depending on the more Ice Armor we actually have. For that reason, I would actually recommend putting your first 200 points into Ice Armor to boost it all the way up to 500. After that, because we're a melee tanky build, you want to put your points into health, and that will give you the flat 5% increase of your maximum health pool. So the higher you push it, the more you'll be regenerating, and you really will be able to make them nice and tanky. But next up, what we will do is check out the rough gearing priority for the build. As always with this gear section, what we will do is give just general gearing tips for the build, and that way it means as new gear comes out in the game you can apply these same tips to choose whether or not to actually upgrade or change your gear as new items come out. But the first item we look at, this is your legendary, and this is the same legendary you can use on the range summon build. This is Mkran. It's great because it provides ice armor, which equates to defense and offense because of Glacial Slam. It has health, damage rating and that great 1500 flat critical hit rating to all of our powers, and for that reason, because it has that, it means for your slots 1 to 5 and also your artifacts you want to concentrate more on Brutal Strike as well as your attributes, which would be energy and durability. When we look at the medallion, Dr. Octopus would work great because it is melee. For the actual green stat effects, ideally what you would be looking for would be resource, because this would go all the way up to an extra 250 ice armor, making you a lot more tanky and making Glacial Slam even more deadly. When it comes to the relic, you have two choices here, and I've really yet to do in-depth testing to find out what pulls ahead. I have a feeling it would be Asgard, because this one will buff all of your melee skills, whereas the resource will only really buff your Glacial Slam. But I suppose what you can do, if you want more damage, go for Asgard. If you want a bit of survivability as well as damage on Glacial Slam, which is nice burst damage, then go for Gibram instead there. But what we'll do with the gear now covered is we have a run through of the Church of Purification operation where we face off against Juggernaut at the end. So we'll do a full bounty clear, take down Juggernaut at the end, and hopefully that'll be a good showcase of the actual build and the rotation as well. But as always, I hope this was useful. Any questions, feel free to ask, and I'll see you all again soon.
need zero sometime. Hopefully before I get pounded into a snow cone.
I'm unstoppable!